My name's Joella with UMBC Rec. Today we're going to do about a 50-minute yoga practice. The only prop you will need is a yoga mat, and if you don't have one, that's totally fine. Just make sure that you're practicing on a non-slip surface and someplace where you have a little bit of space. So as always, please make sure you're listening to your body. I will give some modifications, but if at any point something doesn't feel right for you, please feel free to skip it. And then please make sure you've checked with a healthcare provider before starting a new exercise routine. So we are going to start laying on our backs today. So go ahead and come down to the floor. This is my dog Artemis, who wants to be in the action. Okay, so lay on down. And then bend your knees with your feet flat to the floor. Hands can just rest by your side or maybe on your belly. We're going to take a moment here to just kind of get connected into our bodies and focus to our breath. So pause here for a moment, try to be still. And just notice how you're feeling. And then slowly bring your awareness to your breath, and without trying to change anything yet, just notice how it feels. And then slowly begin to deepen your breath. So just increasing the length of your inhales and your exhales. And then together, take a deep inhale through your nose, and then sigh it out your mouth. Two more like this. Deep inhale through your nose, and sigh it out. Last one, deep inhale, exhale, sigh. Now beginning to breathe just in and out your nose. We'll continue to try and breathe just in and out of our nose throughout our practice. It helps filtrate the air and concentrate your breath. Get a nice deep inhale. And exhale out your nose. Now trying to match the length of your inhales to your exhales. We'll inhale here for 5, 4, 3, 2, out, 5, 4, 3, 2. Inhale through your nose, 4, 3, 2. Out your nose, 4, 3, 2. In, 5, 4, 3, 2. Out, 5, 4, 3, 2. One more. In, 4, 3, 2. Out, 5, 4, 3, 2. And just breathe naturally. So as we move through our practice, we're going to try and link our movement to our breath. And if at any point you sort of lose this breath and can't maintain these even inhales and exhales, it may be a sign that you've gone a little bit too far into the pose. You can back out a little bit. So we're going to begin to add some movement. So again, feet approximately hip distance apart and parallel to each other. So your heel's right behind your second toe. We're going to exhale here and inhale, lift your hips up off the floor. Exhaling them back down. And then right away inhaling up, like there's no beginning or end to the movement or to your breath. One flows right into the other. As you inhale and lift your hips, pressing down into your feet, lengthening your tailbone towards the backs of your knees, and exhale, lowering back down. 2 more times at your own pace. One more, pressing down through the backs of your arms. Exhale, lowering it down. Adding our arms this time, so as you inhale, hips lift, arms lift up overhead, and then exhale right back down by your sides. Inhale, taking the full inhale, palms facing together, outer upper arms wrapping in, and exhale, back down by your sides. And your hands don't need to come all the way up to the floor behind you, but probably stop somewhere around like eye level. One more time, inhaling it up. And exhale, this time lower your hands, but keep your legs or your hips lifted up. So press down to the backs of your arms, maybe walking your shoulders under slightly. And now press down into your feet And think of pulling your heels in closer towards, like your shoulders, towards your bum. And you probably won't actually see any movement there, but you probably will feel it in the backs of your hamstrings, just waking it up there. One more breath. And exhale, lowering your hips back down to the floor. Let's take a little twist here. Let's bring our arms out to like a cactus shape or a T if you have room. And just gently keeping your feet hip distance apart, allow your knees to fall over to the left. Staying here just for a couple breaths. So your hips and knees are not stacked in this twist. Exhale here, inhale back up through center. And exhale over to the right. Staying here just for a couple breaths. One more. And an inhale, bringing it back up through center. And then hug your right knee into your chest. So interlacing your hands over your shin or maybe under your hamstrings, but just reaching up to wherever you can comfortably reach on your leg. And on your next inhale, extend that right heel up towards the ceiling, coming into a little hamstring stretch here, and only at about 80% of how far you can go. So we're still being really gentle. One more breath. And exhale, lower your right foot back down to meet the left. Other side, hug your left knee into your chest. Pausing here just for a moment. And check in with your hips. Make sure that your sacrum and your bum haven't lifted up off the floor. Then on an inhale, extend your heel up towards the ceiling. Again, only coming to like 80%, so not at your maximum stretch. Just beginning to feel that opening in the back of your hamstrings. One more breath. And exhale, really intentionally lower that left leg back down to meet the right. Okay, so now we're going to hug both knees into our chest and begin to rock forward and back. This is about 5 times. So from your shoulders to your tailbone. A couple options here, so you can come up and over your legs onto all fours, or you can sit up, swing your legs out to one side, and come up that way, so you don't have to come up and over in that swing. But we're meeting here on all fours, so wrists right underneath shoulders, knees right underneath our hips, feet right behind our knees. Doing a couple cat-cow poses here. So deep inhale, belly button drops, tailbone lifts, broadening across your collarbone, coming into cat. Or excuse me, this is cow. Exhale, chin to chest, belly button to spine, rounding through your back, pressing the floor away, outer upper arms still wrapping in cat. Inhale again into cow. And exhale, cat. One more time, matching your movement to your breath. Back into that cow pose. And then exhale, cat. Inhale back through your neutral spine. And we're going to extend our right leg behind us. So it should be right in line with your hip. So it's not coming out to the side or back to the middle, but straight out from your hip. Press down to the ball of your foot. And then think of pressing your thigh up into that thigh bone as you lengthen your tailbone down. So really engaging that leg. One more breath here. And exhale, lower it back down to meet the left. Other side, so extending your left leg behind you, pressing down through the ball of your foot, lifting up through your quadriceps, that thigh muscle, pressing into that thigh bone, tailbone lengthening down, outer hips hugging in so that we're not letting our hips fall out to one side or the other. One more breath. And then this time, we're going to extend our right leg back to meet the left. So you're in a high plank. Always an option to be down on your knees here. One more breath. We're going to hinge forward slightly so your shoulders come over top of your fingertips. And then exhale, chaturanga push-up, lowering all the way down to the floor. Elbows pointing towards the back, staying right in by your ribcage. And then inhale, baby cobra. So chest, head, and shoulders lift up off the floor. Low ribs staying down on your mat. Shoulder blades gently coming together and pressing forward into your ribcage. One more breath here. And on an inhale, pressing back up to all fours. From here, tucking your toes under, lifting your hips up and back for downward facing dog. So feet are still hips distance apart, little bend in your knees, so you can really lengthen your tailbone up behind you. Hands are shoulder distance, maybe slightly wider apart, wrist creases slightly turned out to the front edge of your mat. Triceps, the backs of your arms, wrapping in towards your face as you make space across your collarbone. Spine's long. One more breath here. And exhale back down to your knees. Knees gently come down to the floor. We're going to step our right foot up to the inside of our right thumb, coming into a little low lunge here. So that back knee stays down to the floor. See if you can get all 5 toes of that back foot to touch the floor as well. Outer hips really hug in. And then walk this front foot, kind of like inchworm it forward a little bit so that you can allow your hips to gently come forward. So really squeezing in the outer hips and then lengthening your tailbone down so you feel a nice little stretch through your hip flexor and maybe into that quadricep. Your fingertips can sort of tent up on the ground here on either side of that right foot, or maybe come up to your knee. But breathing here, keeping the muscle engagement, so almost thinking of like your thighs pulling together. And then pressing down into that right heel a little bit more. And again, just like we did in that first bridge pose, pulling your heel back to engage your hamstrings. One more breath. And exhale, bringing your hands back down to the floor if they were on your knee. And then walking your hands back so your hip comes back over top of your left knee. And then lift up on your right toes, coming into Ardha or a half split. Just opening up again the backs of those hamstrings. So spine's long, reaching the crown of your head forward, making space across your collarbone. So we're not rounding over this leg, but keeping our spine long. Exhale, right toes come back down to the floor, walking your hands back forward, tucking your, nope, I'm wrong, sorry. Let's just step our right foot back to meet our left, so we're back on all fours. From here, we're gonna step our left foot up to the inside of our left fingertips, and then walking that heel forward so that we can allow our hips to come forward, keeping that front knee right over top of our ankle. So again, seeing if all 5 toes of our right foot can touch the floor. Broadening across the collarbone here, spine long, outer hips hugging in, maybe your hands come up to that knee, to your left knee. From here, think of engaging your inner thighs, like you're squeezing your thighs together even though that they're spread out, finding that same muscle engagement, and then pressing down to the heel of the left foot and isometrically think of pulling it back towards, towards your right leg, and that should turn on your hamstrings a little bit. One more breath. Exhale, hands come down to frame our left foot, and then walk your hands back so your hips come back over top of that left knee and flex the left toes. Spine's long, reaching out through the crown of your head, broadening across your collarbone. And being careful not to lock out this left leg. So we don't want to hyperextend, but again, think of engaging your calf muscle to keep your knee from locking out. One more breath. Exhale here, walking your hands forward, again to frame that left foot. And this time, we're tucking our right toes under, lifting that right knee up, stepping it into downward facing dog. 3 breaths here. Now we do down dog all the time, but every time you do it, can you make it just as intentional? So pressing your hands down, wrapping your outer upper arms in, finding length through your spine. The bottom of your exhale, look towards your hands. Walk, step, maybe float your feet up. Inhale, Ardha Uttanasana. So reaching the crown of your head forward, shoulder blades come together. Exhale, fold. Inhale, arms forward and up, Urdhva Hastasana. And exhale, right back down, forward fold, Uttanasana. Inhale, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, fold, stepping your right foot back to the low lunge. Broaden across your collarbone. Left foot comes back to meet the right. Exhale, Chaturanga, lowering all the way down to the floor. Inhale, Baby Cobra, chest, head, shoulders lift. Exhale, pressing through all fours, tucking your toes under, hips up and back, downward facing dog. 3 breaths here. This is a good spot to reconnect to your breath. 1 more breath. At the bottom of your exhale, your right foot is going to step forward into that low lunge. Broadening across your collarbone. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, fold. Inhale, arms sweep forward and up, Urdhva Hastasana. Exhale, right back down, Uttanasana, forward fold. Inhale, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, left foot steps back. Breath here. Right foot steps back to meet the left in high plank. Exhale, Chaturanga. Inhale, Baby Cobra, chest, head, shoulders lift. Exhale, pressing through all fours, tucking your toes under, hips up and back, downward facing dog. 3 breaths. And at the bottom of your next exhale, left foot steps forward to the inside of your left hand. Inhale, low lunge. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, fold. Inhale, arms forward and up. This time, hips sink back. Weight comes into your heels. Ookatasana, chair pose. Holding here for 3 breaths. Outer hips hugging in. Feet parallel to each other. Knees pointing right over top of your second toes. Lifting your front hip points up and away from your thigh bones so your spine is long. Your next exhale, forward fold. This time, our left foot is going to step back to the back of our mat. We're going to heel toe our right foot over to the midline. Spin your left foot down. So we're lined up heel to arch, and this right knee is right over top of our right ankle. Inhale up, warrior 2. So the whole back leg is spinning in. So you're pressing down to the outer edge of that back foot. Your inner left thigh is spinning back. Shoulders right over top of your hips, and your shoulders are going to be square to the long edge of your mat. Inhale, arms out to a T. Pausing here just for 2 breaths. Adding a little movement. So inhale, arms come up, front leg straightens. And exhale, back into warrior 2. Inhale, arms up, front leg straightens. Exhale, warrior 2. 1 more time, inhale, straighten. Exhale, warrior 2, and hold. Tailbone lengthening down here, rib cage lifting up and away from your sacrum. Both legs are still engaged, so lifting up on your quadriceps. Again, pressing down a little bit into that heel of your right foot and pulling your heel back to light up those hamstrings. 1 more breath. Exhale here, straighten through that right leg. Inhale, and exhale, right fingertips reach towards the right. Your left hip is going to go back towards the left. Coming into Trikonasana, your right hand comes to the outside of that right leg. Left hand right above your shoulder. So you really have to engage your quads here, lifting them up, tailbone lengthening down, wrapping your right glute cheek under. Looking up at that top hand if that doesn't cause any stress in your neck. Both sides of your torso are long, so you're reaching your right rib cage away from your right hip. Exhale, looking down at your right foot. Inhale, back up through warrior 2. Exhale here. Inhale, straightening that right leg. Hand to your hips. We're going to parallel our feet to the short edges of our mat and to each other. So heels right behind our second toe and pointing towards the long edge of our mat. Hands right to your hips here, pressing down through your feet, lifting up on your quadriceps, tailbone lengthening down. Allow like a lift through your torso to bring you up and over, coming into a forward fold, wide-legged forward fold. So you're hinging forward from your hips, spine's long. Hands can just come down to wherever they reach. So maybe that's your shins, your thighs, maybe it's the floor. Weight comes a little more forward into the balls of your feet. And we're keeping our quadriceps lifted this whole time so that we have muscle engagement as well as a stretch. It's going to protect all of our ligaments and tendons and where all of the muscles meet. Taking a breath. Exhale, hands back up to your hips, and then elbows come to point up towards the sky. So your collarbone is broad, pressing down through your feet. Inhale, coming up to stand. We're going to internally rotate our right leg. So our toes and knees, thigh are all pointing up towards the back left of our mat. Back right of our mat, excuse me. Left heel lifts, externally rotating our left leg from deep within the hip socket. So now we're lined up, heel to arch, left knee bends right over top of that ankle, coming into warrior two. Shoulders square to the long edge of our mat and right over top of our hips. So we're not leaning forward or back. Stay up nice and tall. Rib cage lifting up and away from your hips. Gazing out over your left fingers. Hold here for a breath. On your inhale, straighten that left leg. Arms come up by your ears. And exhale, warrior two. Two more times. Inhale, straighten. Exhale, bend. Inhale, straighten. Exhale, bend and hold. 3 breaths here, lifting up on that right quadricep, pressing through that outer edge of that right foot. Right thigh spins in. Then pressing down through the heel of your left foot. And then think of pulling it back. 1 more breath. Inhale, straightening that left leg, coming into Trikonasana. Left fingertips reach towards the left, right hip towards the right. Left hand comes down to the outer edge of that left leg, right hand right over top of your shoulder. Both sides of your torso are long. I would much rather you be up here with a long spine than, be touching the floor and having this curve. So spine's nice and long. And this top hand's right over top of your shoulder. We don't want it to reach way behind us. Maybe if it feels okay on your neck, meaning it doesn't cause any stress or pain, you can look up at that right hand. 1 more breath. Exhale, look down towards your left toes. Inhale, back up to warrior two. Exhale here, inhale, straightening our left knee, hands to our hips, and feet parallel to each other on the short edges of our mat. This time we're going to interlace our hands behind our back. So you have a couple options here. You can interlace all 10 of your fingers, but we want our wrists to stay together. Or you can interlace just your thumbs, or if neither of those things are working for you, hands can just stay to your hips. It's also an option if you have a towel or yoga strap at home to grab that as well. So inhale, again, standing up nice and tall, pressing down through your feet, engaging your quadriceps before you even come forward. Inhale, and then exhale, hinging forward from your hips. Weight comes forward into your toes. Arms come up and over your shoulders. Breathing here. One more breath. Exhale here. Inhale, pressing down through your feet, coming back up to stand. Releasing your hands gently. We're going to externally rotate our right leg, internally rotate your left, coming back into warrior two on our right side, just for 1 more breath. Exhale, our hands are going to come down to frame our right foot. So we're in a low lunge. stepping that right foot back into plank. Inhale here, exhale, hinging forward, chaturanga, lowering all the way down towards the floor, elbows pointing back. Okay. From here on the floor, peek back, make sure that your wrists are right underneath of your shoulders, or excuse me, your elbows. They're not way up here under your shoulders or way back. So pressing down into your hands, wrist creases are parallel or slightly turned out to the front edge of our mat. We're gonna press down really hard into the tops of our feet, so much that our thighs could almost lift up off the floor, and then lengthen your tailbone down towards the backs of your heels. We're gonna exhale here, inhale, press into your hands, coming up into upward facing dog. Urdhva Mukha Svanasana, so shoulders right over top of our wrists, broadening through your collarbone, your whole sternum pulling forward. Maybe you gaze up, one more breath. Coming up, lifting from your inner thighs, tucking your toes under, downward facing dog. 3 breaths here. One more. The bottom of your exhale, look towards your hands, walk, step, or float your feet up. Inhale, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, fold. Inhale, arms forward and up. Ookatasana, chair pose. Hips sink back, weights in your heels. 3 breaths here. Okay. Inhale, press down through your feet, come up to stand. And exhale, releasing your hands down by your sides. So taking a little balanced posture here, starting in Tadasana mountain pose. Feet hips distance apart, hands can just start to your hips. Lengthening your tailbone down, lifting up on your quadriceps, broadening across your collarbone. So making space here, thinking of the front points of your shoulders moving away from each other. We're gonna inhale our right knee right up to hip height. From here we have a few options. If this is challenging your balance, please by all means stay right here, hugging your outer hips in. Or you can interlace your hands under your knee and pause here. The next option from here would be to interlace your hands behind your hamstrings and then extend that our right heel forward. So we want to make sure that our hips are still in line with each other and we didn't let that right hip kick up, and that we're hugging our left hip in, pressing down through all 4 corners of our left foot, lifting up on our left quadricep. Still keeping our collarbone broad. 1 more breath. Exhale, bend your right knee in, hands back to your hips. Right foot comes down to meet the left, other side. Rooting down through our right foot, hands to your hips. Inhale, left knee comes up to hip height. Option to stay right here. This is challenging your balance today, by all means. Hugging your outer hips in, you can interlace your fingers over top of that left shin and pause here, or interlace your hands under your left hamstring and begin to straighten that left leg. So reaching your heel forward, and we're keeping our leg neutrally rotated in the hip socket, meaning our toe and knee should still be pointing up towards the ceiling. We haven't let it fall out to the side. Keeping your right hip hugging in and your right quadricep lifted. 1 more breath. Exhale, bending that left knee, hands back to our hips, sitting it back down right next to the right. Okay, coming back up to the top of your mat in Tadasana mountain pose. Take a breath here. And then inhale, arms sweep out and up, Urdhva. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, step it back, plank pose. Inhale here, exhale, chaturanga, either all the way or halfway down, and then inhale up for your back bend, either cobra or upward facing dog. Exhale, lifting from your inner thighs, hips up and back, downward facing dog, 3 breaths. Hey baby, can you go get daddy? Yeah, go grab goldfish. Okay, at the bottom of your exhale, let's lift our
on your next inhale, lift your right leg up to hip height. Toes and knees pointing down to the floor, outer hips hugging in. 2 breaths here. So keeping your spine long, keeping your outer forearms wrapping in, pressing down through your hands. And then exhale, step your right foot forward to the inside of your right thumb. So we're back in this low lunge position. Take time to set it up here. So we want our feet on railroad tracks, kind of in their own lane, so they're hips distance apart, and not one right in front of the other like they are in Warrior Two. So hugging your outer hips in. From here, press down through the ball of your left foot, lift up on your left quadricep, so pressing it up towards the sky. One more breath here. And then inhale, arms are going to sweep forward and up, little micro bend in that back knee. So you can lengthen your tailbone down, the front knee, your right knee stays right over top of your front ankle. And then reach back, relax your left heel back behind you. One more breath here. Exhale here, inhale, straighten both knees. And exhale, bend. Inhale, straighten. Exhale, bend. One more, inhale, straighten. Exhale, bend. This time, inhale, straighten and pause. Exhale, your hands down to your hips. So still reaching back with that left heel, but it's not coming down to the floor. Lifting up on your quadriceps. We're going to hinge forward from our hips, coming into a modified Badakanasana, sometimes called pyramid pose. So broadening across your collarbone, shoulder blades gently coming together, outer hips hugging in. So pressing down to the ball of your right foot as your right hip crease reaches back. Spine's long, so we're not allowing it to round forward here. One more breath. On your next inhale, arms sweep up, front knee bends, coming back into our high lunge. Exhale, hands come down to frame our right foot. Step it back, downward facing dog. Breathing here. 2 more breaths. Inhale your left leg up and back, 3-legged dog, pausing here. So toe and knee pointing down towards the floor. So again, it's neutrally rotated, just like it was in that standing posture we just did. So your toes and knees pointing down to the floor, outer hips hugging in. On your next exhale, stepping your left foot forward inside of your left thumb. So fingertips stay down to the floor. Reach back through that right heel, and feet again are in their own lanes. Outer hips hugging in, right thigh pressing up into that thigh bone. Press down a little more into the heel of this left foot. One more breath. Exhale here, inhale, arms sweep forward and up, little bend in that back knee. Maybe you have to adjust your stance a little bit. Elbows are long, outer upper arms wrapping in, just like in our downward facing dog. High lunge, Anjaneyasana. All right, we're gonna bend and straighten our left knee 3 times. Inhale, straighten. Exhale, bend. Inhale, straighten. Exhale, bend. Inhale, straighten. Exhale, bend. This time, inhale, straighten and pause. So reaching that right heel back, lifting up on your quadriceps, hands come down to your hips. Spine's long. We're going to inhale here and exhale, hinge forward into this modified Badakanasana. Outer hips hugging in, pressing down through the left, like our left big toe and the ball of that left foot, and then gently pulling back on your left hip crease, getting a little bit more of a stretch through your hamstrings. One more breath. Inhale, arms sweep forward, bending that left knee, coming back into Anjaneyasana. One breath here. Exhale, hands come down to frame our left foot, stepping it back, downward facing dog. 3 breaths here. And again, checking in with our down dog. So this is at least the, I would say, 5th time that we've done it during our practice. So is it just as strong, just as focused as it was the first time? One more breath. The bottom of your exhale, looking towards your hands, walk, step, maybe float your feet up. Inhale, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, fold. Inhale, arms sweep forward and up. Ookatasana, chair pose. Hips sink back, feet hips distance apart, knees right over top of your second toe. Arms come a little in front of your face here so that your triceps can wrap in and that our spine is long, so we're not bringing our hands back, making our chest puff out. Keeping engagement here in your core, like your low ribs are coming together. One more breath. And exhale, forward fold. Okay, let's take slightly wider forward fold here. So heel toe your feet out, probably mat's distance apart. A little bend in your knees so you can really allow your spine to lengthen. Grab opposite elbows and just gently sway from side to side, kind of just releasing your low back here. So the movement's coming from your spine and not just your arms swinging back and forth. Okay, releasing your hands back down to the floor. We're going to heel toe our feet back together so they're back to hip distance apart. Heel again, right behind our second toe. Exhale here, inhale, arms sweep forward and up, coming into Ookatasana, hips sink back, chair pose. We're going to exhale our hands down to heart center. Inhale here, and then exhale, twisting to the right without leaning forward. So it's just a movement from like our waist up. Our legs are exactly the same. Outer hips hugging in, thighs squeezing in, knees still pointing right out over our second toe. And then see if you can feel if your left knee bumped forward in front of your right. Exhale here, inhale, center, and exhale, forward fold. We're going to do that one more time on the left. Inhale, arms sweep forward and up. Ookatasana, chair pose. Core in. Exhale, hands to heart center. Inhale here and exhale, twisting gently to our left. Hips and knees stay in the same line. So we didn't, again, let that happen, basically. So the movement comes right from here, right from our waist. One more breath. Inhale here. Exhale, unwind. And inhale, come up to stand, releasing your hands. Let's take 3 breaths into Dandasana. So hands just by your sides, running across your collarbones, pressing down through your feet. One more breath. Okay, coming back into Ookatasana, chair pose. Exhale here. Inhale, arms forward and up, Ookatasana. Right away, let's bring our weight to our left foot. Lift your right foot off the floor about 1 inch. And then step it back into high lunge. So that left knee is bent right over top of the left ankle. Right heel is reaching back towards the back of the mat. Inhale here, hugging your outer hips in, pressing down through your left foot, and exhale, twisting open to our left. So right hand comes forward, left hand back. Shoulders stay right over top of our hips so we didn't lean forward when we twisted. Tailbone lengthening down. One more breath. Inhale, arms come back up through center. Now weight shifts to our left foot. You might have to lean forward a little bit. And just like it's no big deal, we're going to step our right foot up, meeting the left back in Ookatasana. Other side, weight shifts to our right foot. Left foot comes off the floor like an inch. We're going to step it back to the back of our mat. High lunge, Anjaneyasana. Right knee right over top of right ankle. Micro bend in our left knee, tailbone lengthening down. Left heel reaching back. Inhale here. And exhale, open to the right. Shoulders still right over top of hips. Left hand comes forward, right back in like a T shape. Outer hips hugging in. Pressing down through the whole right foot. Exhale here, inhale, unwind. Weight comes a little more into that front foot so we can step our left foot in to meet the right, Ookatasana. Inhale here and exhale, forward fold. So again, we're going to heel toe our feet slightly wider than hips distance. Weight comes into the balls of our feet, little bend in your knees. Grab opposite elbows and just gently sway from side to side. Release your hands to the floor. We're going to come into Malasana squat, or yogi squat. So toes try to stay about parallel to each other. Trying to keep your hips on the floor. Hips are going to come straight down, elbows to the insides of your knees, broadening across your collarbone. If you have any knee issues, I wouldn't recommend bringing your hips lower than your knees, so you can keep it right up here, right? Breathing here, broadening across your collarbone, so gently pressing your shoulder blades forward into your ribs. One more breath. And exhale, forward fold. Heel toeing your feet back together. And this time just stepping it back to downward facing dog. Two more breaths. Exhale, gently bringing your knees down to the floor, and then bring them about mat's distance apart, and then your toes into touch, hips back towards your heels, forehead to the mat. Arms can be extended overhead, or you can bring them back so your hands are by your feet. On your next inhale, bringing your hands under your shoulders and pressing yourself back up to a seated position. And you can just swing your legs around and come to a seat. So starting with Dandasana, legs are right out from your hips, so hips distance apart. Sitting up nice and tall, we want both sits bones in contact with the floor. If you need to raise your hips a little bit, that's pretty common, so you can sit up on a block if you have one, or maybe just roll up your yoga mat to give you a little more elevation here. A little bend in your knees is welcome, of course. Inhale, sitting up nice and tall, pausing here. So we want our ear over shoulder, shoulder over outer hip, meaning we're not hunched forward or like leaning back. And then on your next exhale, just walk your fingertips forward any amount, so that the hinge forward is coming from your hips and not your spine rounding. Lengthening on your inhale and softening a little more on your exhale. Then on your next exhale, allowing yourself to gently round over. One more breath. Inhale, coming back up through a seated position, coming into Badakanasana. So bending your knees, bringing the soles of your feet together and knees out to the side. So again, you might benefit from sitting up on something, a pillow, blanket, your mat rolled up, anything you have. But the soles of our feet are together and they're as close or as far apart as our inner thighs as feels comfortable. Again, ear over shoulder, shoulder over outer hip. Sitting up nice and tall, And then again, exhale, hinging forward from your hips. So not a rounding in the spine. Three more breaths here. Again, finding length on your inhale and softening on your exhale. On your next inhale, sitting back up, using your hands to bring your knees together, and then making sure you have enough room behind you. We're going to come back down onto our backs. So feet hips distance apart and parallel to each other. We're going to do one more bridge pose here. This time, hold on to the edges of your mat, and before we even lift our hips, sort of walk your shoulder blades under your rib cage so your triceps are wrapping in by your ribs. Exhale here, press down through your feet, and then inhale, lifting your hips up. So pressing down through the backs of your arms just as much as you are into your feet. And then there should be a little space between your chin and your chest. Shoulder blades pressing forward into your ribs. Low ribs lifting away from your sacrum, and your tailbone scooping under and lengthening down towards the backs of your knees. Think of your inner thighs pulling together like you had a block or something between your knees that you were trying to squeeze. And then all 10 toes and your heels are pressed down into the floor. One more breath. And exhale gently, lowering your hips back down to the floor, and then releasing your shoulder blades and the side of your mat. Taking that same twist that we did at the beginning of class, we're going to hold it a little bit longer here. Feet stay hips distance apart, arms come out to goalpost or to a T. And then we're going to exhale and bring our knees over to the left-hand side. So they're not going to stack here. You're getting more of a stretch probably through your hip than a twist coming from like your spine. Then if you need a little bit more here and it feels okay for you, keeping your feet flexed, you can cross that left ankle over top of your right knee. But if that's too much, please keep the left foot down to the floor. And by too much, I mean like the stretch becomes painful or it's causing you stress in your body or your mind. You'll see here for 3 more breaths. All right, you have the left ankle over top of that right knee. Gently bring it back to the floor. And then inhale your knees back up through center. Checking back in with, how your spine is, how your feet are. So feet are hips distance apart and parallel to each other. Inhale here, exhale, knees gently come down over to the right. So feet flexed here. Just notice how this feels. Again, your knees are not stacked here, so you're probably getting a little bit more of a stretch through, the front of your left hip. Then if you want a little bit more, if it's not causing you any stress or pain, you can cross that right heel up over your left knee. Alright, gently coming out of this pose. So if your right ankle is crossed over the left knee, gently bring it back down to the floor. And then knees back up through center. From here, let's hug your knees into your chest. And then just gently rock back and forth, massaging your low back and your sacrum. We'll make our way into Shavasana, final relaxation pose. So you can bring your feet flat to the floor if that feels better on your low back, or extend your legs down your mat. But just find a position here where you can take up space on your mat. and find stillness. So you can get out any last minute fidgets. Allow your breath to be natural. And today, as we lie here, I'm going to do a little mindfulness exercise so that we stay sort of focused inwardly. But just running down a list of everything you can feel. So maybe you can feel the mat on the back of your arms. Maybe you can feel your shirt on your chest as you breathe. But trying to keep your attention right there and focused inwardly. So let's pause here for a few more breaths. You're welcome to stay here in Shavasana as long as you'd like. But when you're ready, bring your awareness back to your breath. Then just gently and slowly make your way back up to a comfortable seated position. So we'll take one more breath here together before we complete our practice. Deep inhale, arms sweeping out and up overhead. Exhale, hands through heart center. Thank you all very much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed your practice. Namaste. Thank you very much for joining me. Again, my name is Joella with UMBC Rec. I also teach a total body conditioning class that airs on the UMBC Rec Instagram and YouTube on Mondays at 6. So then yoga is, I believe, Thursday at 6. So thanks so much. I hope you have a great day.